If you're in the market for a top-of-the-line 4K TV, the Samsung Q90 lineup has always been a good place to look. Today we'll be taking a look at 2020's Q90T to see how it performs compared to last year's Q90R, as well as this year's slightly lower-end Q80T. Hey, I'm Nick, a writer here at Ratings.com, where we help people find the best products for their needs. Remember to subscribe to our channel or check out our website for hundreds of reviews on TVs, soundbars, and more. In this video, we'll start by looking at the design and inputs of the Q90T. Then we'll move on to our test results for picture quality. We'll also take a look at the motion handling, input lag, and sound. Throughout the video, I'll be comparing the Q90T to its naming predecessor from last year, the Q90R. It's worth noting that Samsung actually bumped all the models down one number this year. So while the Q90T succeeds the Q90R in name, it may be considered more of a replacement to last year's Q80R, so we'll compare it to that model as well. Throughout the video, I'll also do some comparisons to this year's Q80T to see if it's worth it to step up from that model to this TV. If you'd like to skip straight to the test results, then see the links in the description below. We purchased the 55-inch Q90T, but it's also available in larger sizes all the way up to 85 inches. We expect these other sizes to perform very similarly overall, but obviously as the TV gets bigger, you'll likely need a more durable wall mount or a bigger TV stand. The design of the Q90T is almost identical to last year's Q90R and looks very premium. It has the same center stand that looks great, but unfortunately doesn't prevent wobble quite as well as the wide set feet found on some lower models like the Q60T. That being said, it does do a much better job than the step down, the Q80T. Unlike last year's Q90R, the Q90T no longer uses Samsung's One Connect box, and all the inputs are now on the back of the TV facing sideways. While some people may prefer this as it's less individual components to deal with, the One Connect box is helpful in hiding all your cables should you wall mount your TV. There is a variant of this TV called the Q95T that still has the One Connect box, but appears to only be available in certain markets and we haven't tested it. The borders of this TV are extremely thin all the way around the screen and are thinner than last year's model. The center stand has a small footprint, meaning you should be able to fit this TV on most tables or stands, though like I said earlier, it does wobble a little bit, but it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Unlike the rest of Samsung's 2020 TV lineup, the Q90T retains the same 5-button control layout below the Samsung logo in the middle of the TV. This is much easier to use than the single button Samsung went with on other TVs this year, and it's great that they kept this layout from last year's Q90R. When we moved around to the side, you'll see that the TV is very thin and looks good. Despite having all the inputs built into the TV this year, the thickness is the exact same as last year's Q90R, which is great. It's worth mentioning that if you are going to wall mount your TV, unfortunately the Q90T no longer supports Samsung's no-gap mount, which is a bit disappointing. The back of the TV looks very similar to last year's Q80R, with all your inputs facing sideways, making it easy to access them when your TV's wall mounted. The inputs are almost the exact same as last year's Q90R, except that instead of 3 USB ports, they've gone down to 2. So in total, you've got 4 HDMI ports, 2 USB ports, 1 digital optical audio out, 1 Ethernet input, and 1 tuner input. As far as cable management, there's cable routing throughout the back of the TV and stand, very similar to this year's Q80T. This works quite well, and it's an easy way to keep all your cables in one place and out of sight. Now we'll move on to picture quality. As always, check out our website for an updated comparison with new TVs as we buy and test them. First up is contrast ratio. The contrast ratio is the ratio between the brightest white and the darkest black that a TV can produce, and is generally considered one of the most important aspects of picture quality. TVs with a high contrast ratio appear to have more detail in dark scenes without those details getting lost in the gray. The contrast ratio of this TV is excellent, and is even better than last year's Q90R, which is great and helps this TV achieve a great picture quality overall. The local dimming feature works really well, and performs very similarly to this year's Q80T. Unlike last year's Q90R and Q80R, subtitles are handled much better and there's less noticeable blooming overall. That being said, there is still some blooming in certain scenes, but it's not nearly as prevalent, and it seems that Samsung has slightly tweaked the way their local dimming works this year for the better. Now on to gray uniformity. Our gray uniformity test checks for issues with the panel where different pixels are all supposed to display the same color, but may not. This can result in distracting areas known as the dirty screen effect, which is most noticeable during intense movement, such as while playing video games or watching sports. The gray uniformity of the Q90T is actually slightly worse than last year's Q80R and Q90R, as well as this year's Q80T, though it's similar. Overall, the edges of the screen appear slightly darker, and there is some distracting dirty screen effect noticeable when watching sports or large areas of uniform color. Thankfully, it performs much better in dark scenes, and this isn't really noticeable. It's worth noting that gray uniformity can vary between units, even of the same model, so yours may perform differently than ours. If you come across a panel that doesn't seem to correspond to our results, let us know in the comments below. Now on to viewing angles. With LED screens, the image colors can degrade when viewing the TV from an angle. This means that having good viewing angles can be important in certain situations, like if you watch a lot of sports games with a large group of people, where some people might be sitting on an angle to the TV, or if your living room is set up in such a way where your couch isn't facing your TV head-on. Like most Samsung TVs, the Q90T uses a VA-type panel, which gives much deeper and more uniform blacks than an IPS panel, but typically has significantly worse viewing angles. Luckily, like last year's Q90R, Samsung implemented their Ultra Viewing Angle layer on this TV that helps drastically improve viewing angles, and it actually performs quite a bit better than last year's Q90. Overall, the viewing angles of this TV are similar or better than TVs with an IPS panel, which is amazing as it gives you the best of both worlds. If your TV is in a very bright and well-lit room, good reflection handling is important to cut out the amount of glare you see on the screen during dark scenes. The Q90T's reflection handling is outstanding, and this TV does an excellent job at minimizing glare and reflections. Unfortunately, the Ultra Viewing Angle layer tends to cause some rainbow reflections across the screen that you won't see on most TVs. Overall, the reflection handling is marginally worse than last year's Q90R, but is still excellent and performs identically to this year's Q80T. SDR peak brightness refers to how bright your screen can get when watching most standard non-HDR content. A brighter screen helps your TV overcome reflections and glare during brighter scenes. Unfortunately, this TV can't get nearly as bright as last year's Q90R, so you may notice a bit of glare during bright scenes, especially if you watch a lot of daytime TV in a room with a lot of windows. That being said, it can still get very bright and perform similarly to last year's Q80R and better than this year's Q80T. If you watch a lot of HDR content or play HDR games from your Xbox One X or PS4 Pro, then the ability to produce brighter regions of the image is important to produce impactful highlight detail. This is one of the most noticeable reasons why some TVs seem to really pop with HDR content while others don't. While the Q90T's HDR peak brightness is excellent, it isn't quite as high as last year's Q90R, so HDR content won't pop as well. That being said, this TV's HDR peak brightness is higher than last year's Q80R and is much higher than this year's Q80T. So if HDR is important to you, it may be worth it to step up from that one to this model. Also important for HDR is the ability to take advantage of the wider color spaces that content can be mastered in. While the color gamut of this TV isn't quite as wide as last year's Q90R or Q80R, it's still great and is marginally better than the Q80T. If you play a lot of games or watch a lot of sports, motion handling may be the most important aspect of a TV to you. Along with last year's Q80R and Q90R, as well as this year's Q80T, this TV uses a 120 Hz panel. Overall, this TV has slightly worse motion handling than last year's Q90R, thanks in part to its marginally slower response time, though they perform very similarly. Response time is an average of the time it takes for the TV to transition from one color to the next. Despite being slightly worse than last year's Q90R, the response time of the Q90T is still exceptional. There's very little blur trail in fast-moving scenes, though there's a significant amount of overshoot in some scenes, which may result in the appearance of some artifacts. This year's Q80T actually performs slightly better in this regard. To help reduce motion blur, the Q90T has an optional black frame insertion feature. This can be enabled by selecting the LED clear motion setting in movie mode. This results in a clear image with less persistent blur, and it performs as remarkably as last year's Q90R, Q80R, and this year's Q80T. Luckily, unlike some recent Samsung TVs, LED clear motion will work in game mode on the Q90T and will drop the flicker frequency to 60 Hz, resulting in a crisper image. If you plan on using your TV for gaming, input lag can be very important. While most higher-end TVs now have low enough input lag that you likely won't notice any delay, the lag of the Q90T with game mode enabled is incredibly low, making it feel very responsive while gaming. Like both last year's Q80R and Q90R, as well as this year's Q80T, this TV supports FreeSync variable refresh rate technology to reduce screen tearing while gaming. It turns on automatically when it detects an Xbox One or computer that supports it, so you don't have to enable it in the settings, which is convenient. Now on to smart features. Like with all Samsung smart TVs, the Q90T uses Samsung's own Tizen OS, and like every other 2020 Samsung TV we've tested so far, it has a slightly simpler interface with no animations and darker graphics compared to last year's models. It's easy to use and runs just as smoothly as on this year's Q80T. While we didn't encounter the recent overscan bug with the Smart OS that we've experienced while testing all of Samsung's other 2020 TVs, this could be because our unit was set to 16:9 by default. Therefore, it's possible this TV still suffers from this bug, though on TVs where we have encountered it, it doesn't happen very often and is easy enough to fix, so we don't expect it to be a problem for most people. Unfortunately, while the Q70T and Q80T both had decent built-in speakers that were a good step up from last year's models, the speakers on the Q90T are a bit worse than both of those models and are even a step down from last year's Q90R. They can get very loud, but if you're spending this much on a TV, you'll have a much better overall experience by going with a dedicated sound system or even just a good soundbar. So overall, the Q90T is an excellent TV for most uses. Unfortunately, it isn't really an upgrade over last year's Q90R and performs slightly worse in most regards, and is performed similarly to last year's Q80R. While it is a bit better than this year's Q80T, overall the differences aren't that significant, and unless having the best possible HDR experience is crucially important to you, you may be better off sticking with that model and saving some cash. So that's it. What do you think of the 2020 Samsung Q90T? Is it worth the extra money over the Q80T? Let us know what you think in the comments below. You can also check out all the measurements on our website. And if you like this video, subscribe to our channel or become an insider on the website for access to all our latest test results first. Also, we're currently hiring in our offices in Montreal for various positions. So if you want to help people find the best products for their needs, have a look at the careers page on our website. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.